Hello, everybody. The end of week 3. It's going to be another short day. That's because all we have to cover today is something called strings and printing. This topic is going to be about formatting output, formatting strings, and it'll make things look a little nicer. This is going to be an important topic for next week. Next week, we'll talk about something called hypertext markup language. This is a language that some websites use to organize elements. So yeah, today is going to be super important for next week. Okay, uh, I did mention it's going to be a short day. It's probably going to be like 1 hour. The material is going to pick up in a couple weeks. On week 5, we're going to cover functions. This is the part where it's probably going to be a full class day, like 2 hours long each day. But yeah, these lessons are relatively short. But yeah, but please be aware of week 5. And things will pick up from there. Okay, let's jump into some strings and printing. And there's going to be a associated lesson in a lab, right? Just 8 and 8. All right, let's jump into it. So I'm going to load up the lesson number 8, quotes in formatting. There we go. This is going to complement the lab 8 as well. We're going to go back and forth between these two lessons. Pretty much we're going to cover like half of the lesson and then go on to the lab, finish half of it, and then go back to the lesson and finish the later part of it. So it's going to be a bit of back and forth. Okay, cool. Let's talk about formatting strings. So far, we've only seen very small print statements. As we want to print more and more things, it may be necessary to represent strings as a different type. Not different type, I mean in different formats. For example, if we wanted to print, oh, hold up, I'm going to refresh my browser because the notebook is glitching all over the place. Let me just refresh this. Okay. Hold up. Give me 1 second. Use up my browser. Glitching everywhere. Okay. Hopefully it doesn't keep glitching. Anyways, let's motivate this with a small print statement. So we could print small things like Bob says hello. Right? Bob says hello. This is grammatically, there's some grammar errors here, kind of, more like punctuation errors. In literature, typically hello should be wrapped in double quotes. But if we tried to do that here in the print statement, right? If we tried to wrap hello in double quotes, let's see what would happen. This would give us a syntax error. Right? It says invalid syntax. Maybe we forgot a comma. The Python interpreter here isn't correct about this, the comma. It's actually due to seeing one string here and then seeing another string here. So the interpreter, let me split this up so I can show how it's reading it. Right, so the Python interpreter sees one string here, and then it doesn't know what hello is. Right? It's probably treating this as a variable. Right? This is not variable. It's supposed to be literal text. And then there's another empty string here. Right? So that's kind of what's happening here. One way we can fix this is by using single quotes to wrap the whole string. For example, here if I use a single quote and a single quote here, right, this will let us use double quotes inside. So press play and there we go, we get hello. All right, so that's one way. Oh, so yeah, there's a couple ways, right? You can use a single quote, you can use double quotes, just whatever your use case is. Okay. Oh, there goes my notebook. Okay. I don't know why it keeps glitching. Okay, you know what? Okay. Another way we can do this is with an escape character, right? Like, what if you didn't want to use single quotes, right? What if you wanted to just use double quotes? Bob says, hello. Right, one way we could do this is by using an escape character. This is backslash. It's right above the enter key. This will treat the next character as something special. So this backslash here is treating this quote as not a quote that will close the string. It's treating it as a literal, meaning that if we print it, it should be the same result. Okay, so that's just another way. As we'll see in programming, there are an infinite amount of ways to do something. There's so much freedom. We can't talk about everything. So I'm hoping folks can be able to kind of self-explore. But this notebook is also going to introduce something called a triple quoted strings. This is useful for when you want to represent text on multiple lines. Like let's say I wanted to represent Bob says hello on multiple lines. We could just use something called a triple quote, right, which lets us represent multi-line strings. So in here, I could say Bob says hello, right, and then there we go. Right, it's on multiple lines. Let me wrap this in double quotes. The hello. Right, Bob says hello, and you can modify this, add more white spaces if you want. Yeah, there we go. And we can't really do this with single quotes. Once again, you can try this out on your own time. All right, if I try this with single quotes, this is not legal Python. Basically, the inventors of Python made it so you got to use triple quotes to represent that. Okay. Cool, so that's just a little sneak peek into here. Oh, let me run this cell. Zoom out a bit. Okay. Cool. Okay. One of the most important things we'll see this week is called a formatted string, or short F string. This is one of the arguably a really good feature in Python, Python 3.0 to be specific. So this is actually a recent feature, or no, it's not recent. It came out like six years ago. The F string lets us use variables inside of strings. So if I were to say something like, let me click in this cell. Okay, hold up, it's not letting me click in this cell. Okay, I guess my notebook is lagging. Let me just put a print hello, hello some variable. So if I were to define a variable right here, like let's say there was a variable that was called named. This one doesn't exist yet, right? If I play it, it says name is not defined. I'm just gonna go ahead and define it right here. Name. I'm gonna go ahead and hard code some data here. I'm just gonna hard code my name. All right, there we go. We defined what name is, and then it's gonna print hello name. Another way we could represent this is with the F string. Right, so let me hard code name is equal to Andrew again. Right, we could do something called F and then double quote, double quote. But this is actually a string. It's an empty string. The cool thing about this prefix F is it'll let us put variables inside of the string. For example, I could say hello and then these brackets. Right? These brackets represent a value that we're going to put in here. In this case, I'm going to put name. Okay, so this does evaluate to a string, the thing I highlighted. So since it evaluates to a string, I'm going to go ahead and print that. Okay, let me press play. There we go. See, hello Andrew. Same thing as above, but this is a different style. It's basically allowing us to put a variable in here. It's called variable interpolation, which is a fancy word. Okay. If you want to have a little more fun with this, you don't really have to hard code these. Typically in programming or a lot of software engineering, variables aren't hard coded. They typically get their data from somewhere else. So if you wanted, you can have some fun and use this function called input. You don't have to use this. Basically, input is a native Python function that will let you get input from somewhere. In the Jupyter Notebook, it's going to give us a text box that we can type in. Right, so here, let me just add one more thing in here. This is like a prompt. What is your name? Right, basically, the input function lets you put in a string here that will kind of greet the user. So here, let me press play. It's going to make sense. So I'll press play. The program is actually still running. The cell is not done executing yet. You see this asterisk? Right? It's not done yet. We're actually paused right here. Right? The program or the cell is paused inside of this input function. In particular, the input function is greeting us. Hey, what is your name? Right? So then when I type in Andrew, the second I press enter, this input function will finish, and then it will return a string into this name. So I'll go ahead and press enter. Boom, press enter. Right, so this function finished. It returned a string into name, and there we go, right? I printed Andrew. Okay, so yeah, this is just a thing in the Jupyter Notebook. If you were to do in classic Python, the input will work a little differently. In the Jupyter Notebook, it gives you this cool text box. So I could put in my whole name. Hello, Andrew Tack. And then enter. Like this, yeah, so you don't have to hard code data. You can get it from somewhere else. Okay. Let's see. What happens if we forget the F? Well, let's find out. Let me take out this F here. So I'm just going to backspace it and just see what happens. Hopefully people might predict that it's going to print a literally name with the brackets. All right, so I'll type in Andrew here, and then yeah, it just says hello name. So yeah, that's because we didn't use an F string. Right? When we prefix a string with an F, the interpreter will be able to read these variables as long as the variables are inside of these curly braces. Okay. Yeah, F strings are really neat. You can do so many things with it. Okay. F strings will kind of let us clean code up. Like this paragraph here, it's just a couple print statements. It's arguably can be written easier. Right? So there's kind of two versions here. This first one is the classic print statement with no F strings. Right, so let me just paste this here. Right, and let me play it real quick. See, just a couple print statements that have multiple inputs. Okay, you can do the same thing with F strings. Right, so here, let me do the same exact thing. Let me make this variable again. Make this string variable program. Right, we can go ahead and represent all of this. Right, this thing that I highlighted, I'm going to represent this in a single string. Right, this consists of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, it's like putting 5 strings together, and same with the bottom one. This is just another way of putting strings together. So we could do the same thing, right? Like we could just represent an F string and say I do not, and then word. All right, this is a variable. So if we want the result, we need to put these curly braces. All right, I did not word, and then you. So let me put a space here, except because I, and then another variable. So you can put another variable in here, and then space u. All right, so there's our single string, our single formatted string, and let me go ahead and print it, and then press play, and there we go, right? It prints the same exact way as above. It's just arguably a little easier to read. It might not look like it yet, but it's going to be easier to read when we see the future assignment. Okay, and let me just do this last print statement real quick in the F string style. So let me go ahead and do an F string, double quotes. I go from word, word-ing. So let me put that in here. Word-ing to not word-ing you. Okay, and then let me wrap that in a print statement. Okay, cool. There we go. So we have a F string. Okay. I think we have enough to get at least a couple parts done in the lab. Yeah, so we should go to the lab. So here in the lab LO8, we go ahead and run this first cell so we get feedback. Okay, the first part is just making sure folks can get used to quotes, right? Like double quotes, single quotes, and triple quotes. Triple quotes are for multi-line strings. And then the second part, hold up, there goes my browser glitching. Okay, the second part is asking if you can use an F string to format certain things. And yeah, it's going to ask you to use these numeric variables. So yeah, earlier we used strings, but yeah, you can use numeric variables as well. So yeah, go ahead and see if you can do it. I'll give it like 10 minutes. Okay. Yeah, I'll give it like 10 minutes. I hope the second part isn't too vague. But if it sounds too vague, I will go over it in like 10 more minutes. But yeah, go ahead and try to get the first and second part done. Let me put a little timer up. 10-minute timer. Okay. And let me go ahead and pause the recording here. Okay, we are back from intermission. Thank you all for folks who tried this out. Okay, let's go over the first couple parts together. All right. So this first part is really just asking us to use different types of quotes. This one is asking us to use double quotes. The reason why is because there's a single quote in the middle. So we could represent this string as, I can't do that, Dave. So there's the string, and let me go ahead and wrap this in a print statement. Okay, and then let me test it. Press play, and oh, attention needed. I don't see the requested output. Interesting. So this is hard to see. I'm just missing a period here. Okay, there we go. Cool, cool. Yeah, every little character matters with these testing cells because they're testing for exact output. All right. And yeah, you'll see that in future CS classes too. You know, for folks who are going on to the next programming classes, or you're going to go into maybe even some coding camps, it's very likely that the grader will check for exact output. And the grader might not be human, right? The grader might be a robot that checks if two things are equal. Okay, next one is asking us to use single quotes. The reason why is because we want to represent these actual double quotes here. So let me use single quotes, and then, so I'll type it out, to be or not to be. And then space, dash, dash, William Shakespeare. Okay. And, okay. Attention needed, you need to use a print function. So yeah, this is just a string. And the Jupyter Notebook is showing us the result. But let me go ahead and print it out so we can actually output it. There we go, all tests passed. Okay, triple quotes will let us use multi-line strings. So you can do this in two different print statements, but the goal of this is to use one. So let me go ahead and use triple quotes. Right, we can represent this in triple quotes. So I'm just going to go ahead and get it ready. There it is. Here's a couple triple quotes, and I'm going to go ahead and represent the first line. So this is going to be, I can't do that, Dave. And then next, the second line, to be or not to be. William Shakespeare. Okay, so there is our string. Jupyter Notebook will show us the result of it. Right? The result of it is this right here. Right? These /n is just a fancy way of saying new line. So it's just these enter keys. Right? Whenever you press an enter key, it's like a new line. So let me go ahead and wrap this in a print statement. So print, and let me test it. And there we go, all tests passed. We printed a multi-line string. Okay, hope that makes sense so far. All right, part 2 is asking us to use f-strings. This one might be a little tricky because I didn't really talk about using math inside of these curly braces. But yeah, it's possible, and that's what this is asking for. So there's 3 variables that we are going to be using in the future. Let me go ahead and press play so we can load these variables in. Cool, so these are now loaded in the kernel. And the part 1 is asking us to print a string that looks like this right here. But you're going to want to replace these XX with the actual value of whatever these variables are. Okay, so let me go ahead and let me first represent the f string. So f and then some quotes. Okay, so we want to say a is equal to something, right? Not XX. XX is just a placeholder, right? It is going to be something. It's going to be a result of some variable. So I'm just going to set this up. So I'll put a b is equal to something here, and then c is equal to a something, and semicolon. Okay, if anything, we just have to interpolate the variables into these curly braces. So we can put A, B, and C here. Right? This will dump out the actual values. Let me go ahead and print it. All right, there we go. Right, we're printing the actual stuff. And then yeah, all tests passed. The directions do ask to not hard code the values. This means to not actually dump out the values here. Right? So if you were to kind of do this right here, 100.2, and then instead of this, do like a 3.14, and this one, -10. This technically does print what we want, but it's hard coded, and generally we want programs to be more general, right? So I'm going to revert it back to these variables here. Okay, cool. Moving down, these next part is showing us that we can do math inside of the braces. So let me go ahead and represent this string first. So I'll go f, and then let me get this literal string, a times b times c. Okay, so a times b times c. And then this is going to be equal to something, right? So I'm going to use curly braces here because we're planning on putting a number in here. In this case, the number can be this expression, right? It can be a times b times c. Right? This might look weird, but this is an expression that will evaluate to a single number. Right? And yeah, we're allowed to do this because it's inside of these curly braces. So when we print this, it's going to give us this right here, right? The literal a times b times c. Right? This comes down here, and then the curly braces evaluate to this number, right? The product of those three numbers. Okay, so let me test it. All test passed. Okay, cool. All right, a couple more. This one, this is kind of combining two things. It's combining multi-line strings with the F string, and that's totally possible. Since we want to use one print statement, we're going to represent this on multiple lines. So let me just go ahead and copy this. Copy. We do need triple quotes, right? Because we're representing a multi-line string. These are placeholders. So let me put the curly braces here. Right, there we go. They're curly braces. But we can't interpolate variables in here yet. Right? We can't actually put variables. If we were to try, right, like let me try a minus b here, a minus b, c, and then b minus c. Right, these are not actually expressions. These are literal strings. And just to prove that, if I were to print this multi-line string, right, it's going to evaluate to literally this. So that's not really what we want. All we have to do is prefix this triple quotes with an F. Right, that will turn this whole string into a multi-line formatted string. So let me press play, and there we go. There are the actual numbers that we want. Okay, and then all tests pass. Okay, any questions about this stuff so far? All right. Yeah, so F strings, going back to the lesson, this is one of the biggest takeaways from this class. You're actually going to use this a lot. In a few more weeks, no, probably like 5 or 6 more weeks, we'll have an assignment that's called Mad Libs. Mad Libs, for folks who have heard of it, it's like a game that you might have played in elementary school where there's a story with a bunch of blanks, and you pretty much ask another person, like, hey, what's a noun? Or, hey, what's a verb? And you keep asking them to give you certain parts of speech, right? Like, hey, what is, name a color, right? And then after all of the words are listed, it would be put into those blanks. And generally, it would produce a story that is funny or wouldn't really make any sense. So that's what we'll see a use of F strings later. Right? You can kind of imagine that the variable is something that the other person will specify for us. Okay. Cool. So I'm in the lesson right now. Let me see. As you'll see in this course, there are so many different ways on doing something. I wanted to jump into formatting. This is literally another way of doing the F string. Before I jump into this, I think it would be appropriate to go to the dictionary weather assignment and kind of apply the F string. right? So let me go ahead and apply the f string in a previous assignment. So you might have remembered on Tuesday, we went to give some hints on this weather project. Right, so let me go to this weather project and show an alternative way you can format output. Okay, so yeah, on Tuesday, we ended off with a sneak peek, and I helped folks get started on the first couple of lines in this assignment. Right, in particular, these are just print statements, right? We're accessing weather data and just dumping them into print statements. It is possible to do this with f strings as well. Right? You don't have to, but if you wanted to, right, let me make another cell and kind of show that. Okay, let me just copy and paste this math equation here. This math equation is just getting the weather temperature and converting it to Fahrenheit. That's all it's doing. Okay, so let's go ahead and convert that, and let's showcase the f string. So this can be written the same way. Right? Let me build the string first. So f, and then current condition. Okay, and then I'll put the variable in here. Right? It's going to be a set of curly braces. So inside of it is going to be the value of what we want. Right? In this case, it's going to be the value from this dictionary, weather and the key title. So we could go ahead and copy this over, right, and put it inside of these curly braces. Right, there we go. Right, there is the f string. And let me go ahead and output it. So print and print. And yeah, there we go. Current condition haze. Right, same exact thing as above. Okay, and let's do the same with this second one. So this second one, let me go ahead and represent that f string. Right, it's temperature, and then colon space, and then here we want to put the value. Right, so it's some value, and then an f. Right, f is the Fahrenheit. It's a unit. So there it is. There's the f. Right, so hopefully people kind of see the format here. If anything, now we just need to put the value inside of these curly braces. And the value here was, you could leave it as plain current Fahrenheit, right, which is not going to round it off. Fahrenheit. Right, this value is coming from the dictionary. Right? We calculated that earlier. So there's our f string. Let me go ahead and print it out, see what it looks like. Okay, and print it. There we go. See, it's the same thing. It's just not rounded. Right? If you want to round it, you can. Right? You can put this in the round function. The round function takes two inputs. So I'll put a round here, and then parentheses here. And this represents the first input. The second input in this function represents how many decimals to go into. So I'm going to go 2 decimals. Okay, once again, be careful about the parentheses and curly braces. I know it might seem confusing. There's like curly braces, there's square brackets, and yeah, there's so many different parentheses everywhere. Feel free to let me know if these are confusing you. But if anything, these normal parentheses will make sense in a couple weeks when we talk about functions. But yeah, there it is. The same exact thing. In my opinion, I prefer f strings just because as programs get more complex, these can make things a lot cleaner. All right, any questions about this stuff so far? Just another way you can output. Okay. This will be useful in the next assignment. The next assignment will be designing HTML. HTML is a hypertext markup language, which is what a lot of websites use to format elements on their page. So yeah, this will be useful stuff. In this case, we're just formatting dictionary elements into print statements. That's all we're doing. Okay, I just wanted to show a quick application of f strings. So here, let me go back to the lesson. Okay, so back to the lesson. This second part is on formatting. It's going to be the same exact thing, but we're going to be using a different style. This one I'm not too much of a fan of, but it is a alternative to formatting strings. So this, here comes the string function. It's called a format, right? But basically, you can put a string with a hole in it, right? You can define a hole as these set of curly braces. And whatever you put as an input for the format function, this will go into the hole. So let me go ahead and play this real quick. I'll do an alternative one. I'll go like, let me represent a string, hello something. Right? This is a hole. We're going to fill it in later. So this string has access to functions. A class function, meaning it's a dot function. So we can have a dot format. And the dot format, if we were to put something in here, right, like let me put my name in here. Right, this function will evaluate to another string. Right, it evaluates to hello Andrew, because the format function puts the arguments, the inputs into these holes. So let me just go ahead and print this. Print hello Andrew. Right, this is just another way of doing the F string. If anything, you don't really have to hard code these strings, right? Like typically, if we were to generalize this, this would say name, right? And then name would be some variable that you would gather data from, right? Like name, right? You could hard code Andrew here, right? But I'm gonna make it an input, right? Just to make it a little more general. Hello, or what is your name? All right, so there you go. What is your name? Press play. Jupyter Notebook renders the input function as a text box. So I'm going to type in Andrew, and then press enter, and then it should finish that function. So hello, Andrew. Okay, any questions about this so far? Okay. Yeah, once again, you can do this in a F string. I suggest trying it out yourself, and yeah, just playing around with it. Okay, I did mention earlier that this right side returns a string, and if you want, you can store the string into a variable. So here, let me just paste this. Let me just copy this cell above and do it in a different style. So let's see, where is it? Right here. So this whole thing that I highlighted is technically a string. Right? The string.format returns a string. Right? If you want, you can store that into a variable to make things a little easier to read. Right? So I'll store it into a variable called phrase, and you can go ahead and print it. Right? Okay, I'm stuck inside the input function. Let me put my name, Andrew space tac. Enter. What is your name? There it is. Hello, Andrew Tac. Okay. So yeah, if you wanted to look more into this function, there's so many things you can do with it. We'll see more right now. Like you can pre-make a template. Like let's say I make a template string, and I'm going to fill it in later. So hello, my name is something. It's possible to fill it in later, right? We could hard code the template.format, right? Template.format Mike. Right? This is the same thing as putting this string into here, right? Like it's literally the same as this right here. Hello, my name is this, but it's arguably more readable to store it into this named variable. And so this will print, hello, my name is Mike. So yeah, same thing as what we saw above. Okay, let's see. The format function can work with multiple holes as well. Like if our template had 2 holes, then the format function would require two inputs as well. So let me just go ahead and set this template up again. This is just a string. So my name is, my favorite color is something. Okay, cool. So I'm just setting up a template. You can think of this as Mad Libs, right? Once again, for folks who played Mad Libs, that's kind of what it looks like, right? There's a story with holes in there, and you're asking a friend to fill in the holes. For now, I mean, you can hard code it, like a template.format Mike and then blue. Right, this means Mike will go into the first hole, and then blue will go into the second. Right, that is possible. You can have a little more fun if you want. I'll go ahead and generalize this a bit more. So I'll make this name as some variable and make this like a color. So let me gather those variables from input. So name is equal to input. What's your name? And then gather another input. Color equals input. What's your favorite color? Okay. So let me go ahead and press play. Cool. It says, what is your name? So I'll go Andrew, enter. All right. So there we go. We finished this first input, and now we are waiting for another input. So I'll go ahead and type in something. What is your favorite color? Green. Enter. And there you go. Right. The result of this last run cell is this string. Right, if anything, I just forgot to print it. So I'll go ahead and print it real quick. Okay, there we go. Andrew, green. There we go. My name is Andrew. Favorite color is green. Okay. Any questions about this stuff so far? Okay. There's so many different things we can do with it. There's some errors you can do as well. Like this one might cause an error. Let's find out. Like what do you think is going to happen if there are two holes? There's two holes here, but we only gave one input to the format function. Right, let's see. I guess I'll just copy it. Copy. Let's test it. Okay. I don't think this is going to give us an error, actually. It's probably just going to fill in the first one. Let's find out. Okay. Oh, okay, it actually gave us an error. Okay, I guess I had it reversed. Yeah, basically, it's telling us that we don't have enough arguments. Right? So if an argument is a fancy way of saying input. So right here, see, args is short for argument. So I could put another one here, like red, and then that should work. Yeah, there we go. Right, but what do you think would happen if we did the opposite? Like, let me make another one. Let me move this down. Right, what do you think would happen if we had two holes, but three arguments, or three inputs? Right, let's see. Copy and paste. Okay. Press play. And yeah, it looks like the behavior of the function, it just ignores this third argument. Right? It's just whoever programmed this function. Right? If you look deep in the library, it probably doesn't even use this third one. Okay. So yeah, if folks want to have some more fun with this, you can look further down in the advanced formatting. I'm actually going to skip over this advanced formatting because it's, in my opinion, it kind of dives down the rabbit hole, and I prefer f strings a lot more. But yeah, you can take a look at this if you want. It's not going to be necessary for this class though, so I'm going to go ahead and collapse that. Okay. Anyways, we're almost done with this. So we saw another way of formatting strings. Right? Here's two different ways of doing the same exact thing. Right, the first one is with the format function, which we just learned, and the other one is with an f string that we learned in the beginning of the lesson. So yeah, feel free to run these two um, if you want. I guess I'll run it here. Here, I'll do it with a previous example. Okay. So this is the formatting one. Right? We saw this earlier. We could also do it like this right here. Like we could grab the variables. Right. So there, I'm grabbing the variables, and then we can go ahead and put it in an f string. Right? I'm just showing two equivalent ways of doing the same thing. So we can go ahead and print an f string that says my name is name. My favorite color is color. Right, so this is, in my opinion, is a lot neater. So let me play it. Press play. What is your name? Andrew. Favorite color is green. Enter. Yeah, see, same thing, right, as up here. Up here, Andrew, and then green. Right, same thing. Okay. F strings is, I think it's way better. It's one of the newest features in Python 3. This didn't exist like 7 years ago. Okay, I guess if you were working with an older version of Python, like Python 2.7, I mean 2 point something, then it might be more appropriate to use the string function format. Okay, so moving down, I collapsed this advanced formatting here. Folks can go ahead and try this out on your own time if you want. It's not too necessary. If anything, the F strings will be more useful. But yeah, going down here, I already covered this, a backslash escape. Right? This is an escape character that treats the next thing as something literal. Right? Like if it weren't for this backslash, right, there's going to be an error. All right, this is because Python is interpreting this first part as a string. Right? This part that I highlighted, it's interpreting that, and then it's saying unterminated string literal. Right? It's pretty much saying there's no matching pair for this one. So yeah, it's you can use this backslash to treat the next character as something special. And in this case, it will treat it like a literal. Okay. This might be useful stuff if you're working with sheets. Like if you've worked with Excel or Google Sheets, right, where you're dealing with tables and cells, this might be useful. There's an escape character that lets you tab. Like here, let me just press play here. Right, so you don't really see it here, but there is a tab character in this very beginning. Right, this is like this is not really a space. It's a tab character, which is different, right? People might think a tab is like 8 spaces or whatever, but in the computer world, it's a tab is a single character. It just renders and makes it look like 8 spaces, but it's not. And here's 2 tabs here, 1, right, and then 2. Oh, hold up, I can't highlight it correctly. It keeps. Okay. Anyways, as long as people see that there's 2 tabs there. I need to bring a mouse. I'm using a trackpad right now. Okay. I did mention that this might be useful for Google Sheets. So I guess I could show a use for this real quick. Right? This escape T. You could maybe imagine that you're printing results, right? Like here, let's say I were to print a table that was tab separated. Like maybe imagine a grade book, right? You could kind of imagine a grade book. Like let's say there's Alice, and then there's a Bob, and then there's Charlie. Right? So this might look weird, but this is actually tab spaced, so it renders it with a tab in between. And imagine it's a grade book, right? Like let's say Alice has some number in the beginning, right? Like let's say she got like 100, and then let's say Bob got like in 95. Let's say Charlie got like a 80, right? So yeah, just imagine a grade book. And let me put another line here. Print. Let's see. Let's go 2. Let's go 30. It doesn't matter. Just some random numbers. 50, 50, and then 100. And let me go ahead and render this. All right, so they're all tab space. This might be useful if you want to copy things over to Sheets or Excel, because you can actually copy this right here, right? So I'm just gonna highlight it and copy, and let me go to my Google Sheets real quick. Sheets. Oh, you know what? Look, let me hide it real quick, just in case I leak anything. Okay. Cool, cool. Okay, so let's see. We have a Sheets. This works with Excel too. So I just copied and pasted this output, and you can actually paste it right here. Oh, okay. Hey, hold up. It didn't paste it in different cells. There it is. There it is. I pasted it. I had to use I think it was Control Shift V, but it was pretty much paste something here. Paste values only. All right, but yeah, do people kind of see what happened? They're all on separate cells, and that's because they were tabs based. So yeah, this is some useful stuff. The tab character. Okay. Cool, cool. There's a new line character as well. This represents like an enter key. For folks who might have used a typewriter, a new line is like pressing the enter, and then you'll hear a sound. All right, it's like a cha-ching sound, and then it'll move over to the left side. So yeah, /n means go to the next line. So 1, 2, and then 3. Right, just a bunch of things. There's so many different escape characters that you can do. Right, escape character is a way of formatting output. If you want, you can go ahead and Google them. There is a way that you can color text as well, but that's not going to be too necessary for this class. Okay, so that's literally it for today. Just wanted to cover a few things. It's pretty much different ways on representing strings. Right, that's literally it for today. This will help us out with the next week. Right, it's going to pick up a lot next week. We're going to spend a whole solid week on HTML. This is not Python, really. This is more like using a web markup language. And we will just happen to use Python to aid us with HTML. Okay. Yeah, so formatting will help us format HTML. It will help us format elements of a web page. Okay, and once again, please be aware that on week 5, things will pick up. It's going to speed up a lot here. Week 5 is probably one of the most important ones that you don't want to fall behind on. One of the biggest reasons is because the midterm heavily relies on functions, and functions is there's so much we could talk about it on this. Okay, so yeah, it's a really short day today. Like I said, it's like an hour. Over the weekend, I'm going to record a optional recording and optional content to make up for the large buffer we have. So yeah, give me some time. I'm gonna record it when I'm at home. I have a much better microphone and computer and stuff there. But the recording is really just going to show Python in a different style. This way people kind of can see what an actual development pipeline looks like. Jupyter Notebook is really just good for visualizing small blocks of code at a time. Okay, thank you all for coming, and that's it for today. Have a great weekend, everyone.